Chapter 268 White Spider. Han Li was currently in a stalactite cave open from all sides. Although he did not know how big it truly was, it absolutely couldn't have been small. After Han Li took a look in every direction with a moonlight stone in hand, he had come to that conclusion. In the split second when the tunnel collapsed into dirt and falling stones, Han Li quickly flew and activated his protective barrier. As a result, although he was deeply buried underneath the earth from the series of tremors, he still had the leeway to take deep breaths and move slowly. However, the earth tremors were too great, and Han Li no longer knew where he was, incapable of identifying his direction. He had no choice but to release several lizard puppet beasts he had on hand and have them simultaneously dig in different directions, hoping to find a way out. At this moment, he felt great regret for not having previously learned the earth evasion technique. If he had, he could just smoothly shuttle through the earth. Now, he could only have his puppet beasts move forward as he slowly crawled. As for using magic tools to open a path, Han Li completely rejected it as soon as he thought of it. Under the current circumstances, negligently squandering magic power was not wise, especially without knowing a clear route. Furthermore, using magic tools while underneath the earth was truly far too dangerous. With a single mistake, he would be caught in another collapse. As such, Han Li first controlled several puppets and scouted everything within a certain range once through before choosing the mostly likely route to escape from. Like this, after many hours of dull crawling, he eventually arrived at this mysterious stalactite cave. This caused Han Li's completely taut heart to thoroughly relax. The feeling of surviving a calamity was truly wonderful. Han Li turned his head to look at the hole he just crawled out of. He was certain there were others who had also managed to preserve their life while trapped underneath the collapsed tunnel, but whether or not they were able to find a path to life was hard to say. Because they were trapped in an airtight area, even if they were Foundation establishment cultivators, they wouldn't last for very long. Qi condensation disciples were even less likely to survive. However, while Han Li was rejoicing in his fortune, he felt a bit puzzled. How could it be that soon after they entered the tunnel would collapse from an earthquake? Could it be the Devil Dao had arranged ghosts to cause this? Han Li felt that this guess was most likely true. On the surface, the Devil Dao cultivators had just greatly damaged the Spirit Stone Mine's opening, using magic tools to completely smash the cave within to pieces. High up above the Spirit Stone Mine, yellow-robed old man was facing the red-robed young woman, regretfully saying, "Junior Marshal Sister Lian, you are treating this small problem greatly. Just to get a few stray dogs, you used an earth-shaking talisman, an extremely rare mid-grade talisman. Humph. To run away from me, Lian Feiwa, how could it be so easy?" Although rooting out this Spirit Stone Mine happened to be just an insignificant mission, to truly let them run away so easily makes me feel ill at ease. The red-robed young woman slanted her mouth, saying this without concern. When the yellow-robed man heard this, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Using this to justify wasting a rare talisman, it was truly too ridiculous. But even so, she was the Devil Flame Sect Master's only daughter. Sigh, he was only a Heavenly Fiend Sect enforcer. He should just mind his own business. With this thought, the old man shut his mouth and kept quiet. Not long after, the Spirit Stone Mine was completely destroyed by the Devil Dao cultivators. They flew away, eventually flying off into the horizon. After a day, a huge 7-sex medicine cultivation yard hidden rather far from this place was raided by the same group. They stole all the medicinal herbs that could be used and cleanly set the saplings ablaze with Azure Sun Devil Fire. This matter immediately seized the hearts of the 7-sex upper echelon. Compared to the Spirit Stone Mine Han Li had guarded, it was insignificant. By using only a bit of time, the mine would be restored. However, the plundered and burned spiritual herbs needed several tens of years to grow again. The 7-sex upper echelon furiously dispatched experts to pursue and kill them. But who would have thought that the enemy would meet with reinforcements or that the 7-sex would suffer a small loss from the ambush? With such continuous losses, the seven sects naturally wouldn't submit to humiliation. After recovering a bit of strength, they took the initiative to begin a second wave of large-scale battles, once more opening another prelude. Underground, Han Li wrinkled his brow. He finally identified the direction of the wind within the cave. He had his puppet beasts find the path forward as he crawled after them. After passing through several tens of caverns, the stalactite caves became larger and larger. The largest cavern could fit over 100 people without problem. The further he moved, the stronger the wind flow, which caused Han Li to be a bit more at ease. After all, with wind, there would be an opening to the surface. Just as Han Li entered a new cavern, he ran into 6 or 7 people. They were Yuan Le, Lu Tianfeng, and other cultivators. Unexpectedly, Zhang Wu was there as well. When they saw Han Li alongside 2 puppet beasts, they blankly stared with surprise. But soon after, as Xuanyi smiled and thought of saying something, a mournful scream came from the other direction, causing everyone's expression to change, revealing fright. Without inquiring anything from Han Li, Xuanyi and Lu Tianming looked at each other and immediately followed the scream with hastened steps. No one dared to be negligent, applying all sorts of defensive magic techniques and magic tools as a precaution. When Han Li saw this, he hesitated for a moment. In the end, he took out his white scale shield and slowly followed. However, he didn't use a defensive magic technique. This way, he would be able to use both the Imperial Flight technique and soft body movements. He always believed that in narrow quarters, speed was more important than defense. After they passed through 3 or 4 large caverns, they arrived at a huge stalactite cave and suddenly saw a frightful scene before them. At the center of the cavern, a sparkling crystal white spider over 10 meters large was using its huge sharp teeth to bite at a badly mutilated corpse. The corpse was wearing white clothes, clearly revealing its former identity as a masked moon sect disciple who had managed to flee from being buried alive. Near the corpse, there were 3 or 4 thoroughly worn-out magic tools. But what was most noticeable was the huge spirit stone vein behind the spider. Surrounding it was an extremely ancient hexagonal transportation formation. To the side of the transportation formation, there was a rainbow-colored skeleton sitting cross-legged in meditation, levitating a meter into the air. Its hand was grasping a lustrous blue command medallion that was radiating faintly. "What is this?" After a chi condensation cultivator swallowed his spit, he dryly asked. No one knew if he was asking about this monstrous spider, the transportation formation, or the skeleton with the command medallion. Naturally, no one answered. Perhaps it was because this person's voice had alarmed the spider, but the monster suddenly stopped gnawing. It raised its head and glared at the party that had invaded its cavern with an ice-cold gaze. This caused Han Li's and the other cultivators' hearts to tremble as they hastily prepared to fight. But a moment after this monster took a glance, it lowered its head and continued to gnaw at the corpse, turning a blind eye to the crowd of people. This caused everyone to look at each other in dismay. Die. When a masked moon sect cultivator saw his fellow sect member had died at the jaws of this spider, he felt grieved from his death and raised his hand, fiercely throwing a flaming dark magic tool toward the spider. This caused Lu Tianming and the other experienced people to jump in fright, inwardly cursing this person's imprudence. Ping, the clear sound rang out as the flying dart struck the head of the spider, which hadn't attempted to dodge in the slightest. Unexpectedly, it bounced back. Not the slightest trace of damage could be seen on the insect beast. Furthermore, the point of the dart had become slightly bent. The other cultivators' eyes nearly dropped from their sockets. This spider's outer carapace was actually this hard, it was far too ridiculous. Everyone, attack! Xuanyi fiercely glanced at that rash fellow sect member and had no better option than to call for everyone to simultaneously attack. This was because that spider had already stopped eating and was slowly walking towards them. After these words were said, over 10 magic tools flew out at the same time. They all struck the huge spider with all sorts of divine powers. Han Li had also sent out his golden blades. At this moment, underneath the dazzling barrage of attacks, the spider's body had become completely covered by strong light, almost as if it had been instantly killed by those attacks. But after the sounds of clatter were heard, the brilliance of the magic tool's attack had dimmed. 5 or 6 lower-grade magic tools even completely lost their spiritual properties, falling to the ground. When Han Li and the other cultivators saw this, they turned pale with fright. They each took the same action, drawing their gazes to their magic tools. In the end, the top-grade magic tools were still in good condition. However, the high-grade magic tools suffered heavy damage. As for the lower-grade magic tools, they fell to the floor. Once again, the slightest trace of damage couldn't be seen on the white spider, which continued to leisurely crawl towards them. Withdraw. After Li Tianming and Xuanyi looked at each other, they both happened to shout the same word. Although they were a bit curious about the transportation formation and the command medallion, the price to kill that demonic monster was far too high. Furthermore, the return to the surface was far more important. But during this time, the white spider opened its mouth, and a shining white liquid sprayed out everywhere. After seeing the fearsomeness of this monster, who dared to be so stupid as to touch this unknown liquid? Everyone similarly flashed to either side. Not good. Han Li came to a realization after thinking of something and couldn't help but cry out. The other cultivators were slightly startled, they hadn't fully realized what just happened. The liquid suddenly turning into a huge net. The spider then pounced at the cave opening and stood on the web. Much to their surprise, it tightly sealed the entrance they had just used to enter. The other cultivators' expressions changed. At this moment, they discovered that this stalactite cave seemed to only have one exit.